Hi again, D and Dainty here, and today I want to carry on with the second video in the series of why B2B lead generation fails and why people go wrong with it and what happens. And just to review the first video I did, there were 5 reasons why I started out, and there's going to be some more reasons here. So obviously I didn't want to pack them all into one video. I wanted to give you some time in between. And the first video talked about people don't know the market, their own marketplace. You know, I can sell to everybody. I know who I can sell. You know, everybody needs my product. I see this too often. You got to focus. You got to know your market. Got to know what issues your marketplace faces and the issues that the people that you sell to within that each company, what issues they face. Most people don't know that. Very few people really have a really good value proposition. As I mentioned, you need a great value proposition, and it must have numbers, either dollars or percentages that people gain by using your product or service, or through profits or revenues or productivity, etc. I'm going to talk about that today, why business people buy. You don't differentiate yourself from anybody. Great way to differentiate yourself, and I mentioned in the other video, is if you're dealing with the big guys like IBM or the big McKinsey, whoever you're dealing with, tell them you're going to guarantee your work. Now, there's a way to do that. You can't just say, I'm going to guarantee it and go ahead, because you could lose everything. There's a way to do that, and you got to understand that. But if you guarantee your work, that'll set you apart from other people. And then, of course, people don't understand the competition. I hear people saying all the time, we don't have any competition. We're so different. Well, that's a bunch of baloney, really. BS, how you want to say it, but you've got so much competition these days, you don't even know who most of them are, and you have to understand that. So what are some of the other reasons for failure? Well, here's what you need to know about all of those things that we talked about. You need to know all of them, but you also need to know this. You have to know the 5 buying stages that B2B companies go through to buy. It's quite a sophisticated and complicated buying stage, but you must understand what it is. You must understand who influences the buying process and the products and services that B2B companies buy. You must understand who they are. You must understand that social proof is very important. You must give proof of why people should buy from you, okay? And we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about why B2B companies buy, okay? There's 5 stages, but why do they buy? What are the reasons they buy? And so there are 5 factors in that, and I'm going to go through that with you. So let's look at the 5 buying stages for B2B companies. The first one is the company has to agree they have a problem, or the person you're dealing with has to agree that he or she has a problem. This is where a lot of people where cold calling really fails, because they phone people and the people don't even think they have a problem. And so why would they want to deal with you if they have nothing, if you've got nothing to fix? And that's why cold calling is a real, I just don't like it. It doesn't work. And then they have to agree, and this is where a lot of people also fall down, is they have to agree they want to solve the problem. Now, this is where inbound marketing really works for these 2 things. They have to agree they have a problem and they want to solve the problem. Now, what you can do for outbound here, though, is that, and we'll get to point 3 in a sec, which is inbound, sorry. This is where outbound marketing can work. If you can agitate a problem, if you can, people agree they have a problem. They don't have a problem, or they don't want to change what they're doing at all, then you're just wasting your time, and you'll phone all kinds of people. Don't forget, your biggest competitor is the status quo. Always is the status quo, so people don't agree that they have a problem. Or, it's just the way we've done things around here, and we're not going to change it right now. So you have to understand that. Your biggest competitor is always the status quo. They got to agree they have a problem. They want to solve the problem. When you're doing outbound marketing and they don't have those 2 things, you have to agitate it and find a way somehow where they do have the problem and try and make them want to solve it through the benefits that you can give them through your products and or services. Okay, so these are important. Now, these can be done and should be done automatically through. You can do it through outbound, but it shouldn't be through cold calling. It should be, unless you've really done your homework on a company, and you know that they have a problem, even if they feel they don't want to solve it right now, you can show them a way to get better if they're if the people in it want to solve it. So, but really the best thing to do is automate this, and that's where the inbound comes in. And then what happens, and this is where the people start finding you, if they've agreed internally that they've got a problem, and they've agreed that they want to solve the problem, then they start evaluating alternatives. So now you're 50 to 60% through the buy cycle that they're in, because once they agree they have a problem, they will, they'll document what that problem is, and then they'll look at alternatives. So that's when they start to evaluate alternatives. And that's where you come in, and that's where you need to be found. And the chances of doing it through outbound are pretty slim unless you've nurtured them along, okay? So that's why the buy cycle can take so long, is that it doesn't take as long if they get to stage 3 and they find you at stage 3. But if you want to catch them at stage 1, then it's going to take longer. The nice thing about catching them at stage 1 is you're going to be the people that they're going to go to if you're doing it right, if you're nurturing them right, if you're bringing them along properly, and we're going to talk about that in the next video. So they're going to evaluate alternatives, and so they're going to find you and your company to say, hey, how can we do that? And we're going to talk about how they find you in a later video. And then they decide to buy after they've evaluated the alternatives. There's a bunch of things that they evaluate with, and they may have a long list of 10, 12, 15 firms, and then they'll have a short list of maybe 3 to 5 firms, and depending on the size of what they're buying, they may bring you in to do a presentation if you're on the short list, and that's what you have to do. One of the things that I've interviewed 25, somewhere 25, 50 over the past number of years, but recently quite a large number of CIOs about what they look for, and the account executive plays a huge factor when you're down to the short list on his or her presentation, how well that account executive has studied your company, your market, and everything else about you, and that's a big factor in what will make them decide to buy. And then after that, they renew. So once you get in there, make sure that you're trying to sell them more, either of your own products or your partners' products. So they want to renew, they want to build. So that's something we can talk about. And obviously, the best people to sell to are your current customers or past customers or referrals. So they're the 5 buying stages that people go through. Stages 1 and 2 should be automated. Okay, automate as much as you can. Even when they're evaluating alternatives, there's many things you can do through the automation process. So they're the 5 buying stages. You must understand that. You must understand this is what people go through when they want to buy. Then you got people who influence the sale. There's 4 different types of influencers. There's first of all the check signer. Now you may recognize this person. It's Warren Buffett. And he signed an awful lot of checks and influences an awful lot of companies. So I thought it'd be nice to put him up there. You notice I spell check. If you're an American, I'm in Canada, and so we still spell it the British way. But the check signer is sometimes called the financial influencer, and this individual is the one who has the final say in what will happen. And if you get, that's why this is the best person to go to initially, if you can get to this person. And depending on how big your system is, or your product, or how much it costs, how much it will affect the company that you're working with, whether it's a product or a service, depends on how high up the organization you go. If you're going to sell to Warren Buffett, you're going quite a ways up, obviously. So they're the check signer. You got to get to know these people. The other group, of course, is the users, the ones who's going to use your product or service while you're implementing it, after you implement. And if you can't get to the check signer, and that person will probably put you in touch with the user VP. So that's what you want to do, is get in touch with the head of the user group that's going to use your particular product or service. They're persons that you can really nurture, because they are a huge influence, if not the biggest influence, on whether your product or service will become part of the organization you're selling to. So you need to get to know that person in particular, and even some of the managers within that group. Then, of course, you're going to run into the dreaded gatekeepers. And who are they? Well, I always like to call gatekeepers box tickers, and then you can see what we've got here is they have a whole menu of items the little box beside them, and when you submit your product or service, whether they might go out for an RFP, a request for proposal, even an RFI, before an RFP, RFI is a request for information, and that may go out to the first 20 to 40 people, or maybe not that many, 15 to 25 people, so that they can cut it down and send the RFP out to maybe 5 to 10 firms. So that's what they want to do. So you've got to get to know these people and what they're looking for. Many times they could be in the user group, okay, or they could be a purchasing agent in a lot of companies, and that's really all purchasing agents are really gatekeepers, okay. And depending on what you sell, particularly in the food industry, that kind of thing, you deal with purchasing agents all the time rather than the actual, well, the people don't use your product because they're going to sell it just to their customers. But that's how you understand. By the way, you should understand your clients' customers too. Who do they sell to, so that you really understand their business. So you've got to understand gatekeepers. Gatekeepers will probably change every time you want to sell something. Sometimes, as I mentioned, gatekeepers are in the user group. So if you want to sell something different, you're selling a software product and you want to sell a service, the gatekeepers will probably change. Obviously, the users can change too. And the final one is a champion. Can you get somebody to sponsor you who knows you and your company? Can you get somebody to sponsor you into that company you're trying to sell to? Huge difference. Of course, the best sponsor is the check signer. If you can get the check signer to sponsor you, I've had that happen in a couple of instances in companies in the past, and I mean, you're in and all you have to do is not screw up, because you know you're going to win the business. So service them like crazy no matter what you're doing. So get a champion, somebody who understands your situation and also understands the company you're trying to sell to, that's their situation, so that, and particularly if they know the check signer. And then a champion could be inside your company, it could be your CEO, it could be outside your company, it could be a consultant, it could be inside the your prospect, your client's company, the head of the user group. Particularly if you can get the check signer, head of the user group is really great because they're a big influencer on what you're going to use. So look for a champion, look for somebody that will help you get inside this company if it's a big sale. Next thing you have to do is you have to show them proof, what we call social proof, that what you say you can do, you can do. And what's the best way to do that? Well, is through case studies of other customers that you've had. And here's a very simplistic way that case studies are done, problem solution results. And that's what a lot of people leave out are results. But you also have to talk about some of the other ways that they've looked at to solve their problem. Testimonials are part of case studies, but you can pull them out and just put them on your website or say, we helped so-and-so do it and here's what they said. And if they want to study the full case study, then they can do that through your website. Testimonials are great. And you should have a dozen or however, not a dozen, but 3 to 5 on your homepage so that people can see what you're doing. And testimonials should always contain numbers, whether it's a dollar sign or a percentage of how much you either save them or whatever. And we're going to talk about that in a minute later on in this video about why people buy. So you need testimonials, you need case studies. Another thing that people believe in, which is proof, is authority. Let's suppose that you're a partner of Microsoft or IBM or Cisco or McKinsey or whoever it is that you deal with. If you can say, hey, we're their partners, then that sets you up as an authority. Or if you can get an authority to say something good about you. Why do you think these consumer products companies have actors talk about their products? People believe them for whatever reason it is, and really, they're getting paid huge sums of money to do that. I mean, I'm a golfer, and look at Tiger Woods and now Rory McIlroy and all the guys who endorse different golf products. People buy them because these people endorse them. They're authorities in that marketplace, so they endorse them. Try and get some authority in your marketplace to endorse your business. That will help you considerably. And the other thing, of course, that I talked about is a guarantee. And there are different ways to give guarantees. And when you're providing a B2B product or service, which usually is quite a big implementation process, a product isn't something I probably buy off the shelf for $9.95 or even if it is $100, but usually it's, it's a number of thousands, it's thousands of dollars, or even hundreds or millions of dollars. And so, can you give a guarantee? Yes, you can if you set it up properly. And I won't go through that today because it would take a while, but certainly if you want to beat the big guys, if you want to compete against the big guys like the IBMs or the McKinseys or whoever it is you're competing against, then this is a great way to do it, is to give a guarantee of your services. And I can show you how to do that so that it works for you every time, okay? Don't give a 100% guarantee. Hey, if this doesn't work, then you don't have to pay for it. You don't want to do that, because when you're implementing a large B2B system or product or service, everybody has to be walking on the same page. They have to be working together on it, and that includes the client. And if they're not working with you, then they'll give them some. A, it won't work, and B, there's no point in you spending a whole bunch of time trying to implement something when they don't want to. So you got to make sure they're on your side, but you give a guarantee. Will set you above, because I know IBM doesn't give guarantees, and most large companies don't. They just stop doing it. If you want to deal with this, here's what you get. So let's look at, why do B2B companies buy? What are they trying to get out of things? Well, first of all, they usually have a problem. But so what do they want in it? Well, they want improved performance. And what does improved performance mean? Well, three main categories of improved performance: an increase in revenue or profits, a decrease in expenses, or an improvement in productivity. So if you decrease expenses, you should increase your profit, unless you go out and hire a bunch of people to help decrease your profits or your expenses. And if you have an increase in revenue without a similar huge increase in other things you need to buy, like people or hire, then you'll get more profits. And an improvement in productivity, which is what a lot of packages do. So if you can give your buyer an improved performance, and what you want to do is find out what the results they got by using your product. Maybe you can give them increased opportunities. 4 areas where your customers can increase their opportunities. These include new products. Maybe your product or service can help them deliver new products. Break into new markets, as an example. Maybe they can help them build a whole new business out of what you're doing. Or maybe it's just an expansion of, your product can help them expand into another city or whatever. And a lot of software will help companies do that. But even your services might help do that too. So increased opportunities are important. A competitive advantage, as Jack Welch says, if you don't have a competitive advantage, don't compete. So you can give your customer a competitive advantage by successfully demonstrating one or more of the following factors: differentiation. We talked about that. Why are you different, and what can you do that they would buy from you? A lower cost sometimes, the lowest cost, not your lowest price, but the lowest cost. You may or may not be the lowest price, but you want to deliver things that can bring down your price, so you are the lowest cost producer, and therefore you're going to get more. You're going to get more profits, but you're going to help them too. Or niche markets. If you have a product in a niche, as an example, BlackBerry was the first kind of product in the smartphone, although they're struggling now because they stayed too static. So if you have a niche, something like that, and now Apple, and who knows what's going to happen with Google and all of those. There were companies that started out long before Google did in the search market, but they went away. Yahoo, who's struggling now. So you just can't have it and stay there. But when you do have it, take advantage of it. Your competitive advantage. Okay. And another one is risk mitigation. I like this. You should see the new management consultant we hired. He's going to make all our risks disappear. Yeah, right. Anyway, that's and you see him pull a rabbit out of a hat. There's 2 types of risk. One is the risk of you going out of business or something happening to you. So you've got to, if you're a listed company, you have to go through Sarbanes-Oxley, where your CEO and your CFO and sometimes your CIO have to sign off on your yearly financial statements. So there's risks like that where you can't give false statements or that kind of thing, or you've got to make sure everything's in line. You got to be audited. All of those things. That's a risk. Another risk is when you're implementing a large system, there's a risk that it might not work. So your implementation has to be down to, you make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted when you're implementing, and you must implement with the team on your client side too, so that you're all working together. So I talked about before about the guarantee and how you can do that. So those two types of risks, the implementation risk, or that the people don't use your product after you implement it, so you got to educate them on how to use it, and also the risk of them some catastrophe, security risk, those kinds of things, okay? So you must have risk mitigation. And there's one more reason why people buy, and it trumps all of these, and it's called personal wins. You have to realize that even in a B2B situation, people buy, and you've heard this before, for emotional or personal reasons and justify it with logical reason. And that's true unless they're buying a screwdriver or a screw. They just want to get the best one. There's probably not a lot of emotion in it. It's just logic. But if they're going to buy a system from you, and you're going to go in and work with them on helping them change their business, then a lot of that's going to be built on emotion. So you better understand what that emotion is and what's going to happen from there. Okay? What are examples of personal wins? Well, they could remain in power. They could achieve control over other people in the sense that, they're not going to make them do it, but, they make them feel better. They get more power. They get more leisure. They're able to take more time off. Increase self-esteem. Hey, I helped this company build it. Look at me. You can stay in a location. Maybe you could move a location. Maybe you're going to move up in the organization. You're going to become more flexible. You're going to develop your skills. There's hundreds and hundreds of reasons why people will buy for personal reasons. But you must understand that, because they're a huge influence on whether you're going to win or not. And I had a great example when I was trying to sell a software product to a company. That was great. The users loved it, except for the user manager. The CIO liked it, and the person that worked for him, this user manager, I figured he was 62, 63, in that range, early 60s, had maybe a year or two left for retirement, and wasn't going to let anything upset him. He wasn't going to work any more weekends or any more nights, and so he kiboshed the whole implementation or the whole purchase thing. So this is what you run into when people don't want to solve a problem. Okay, so you got to remember, they may recognize a problem, but they don't want to solve it because I'm not going to go through that pain. So you must understand that people win or lose personally first, and then the corporation comes in. So you must understand that and know how to overcome that, or find that out very early, knowing full well that you may not get the sale and move on somewhere else. Biggest factor is personal wins. So you must understand the buying process. We talked about that. The 5 stages that people go through, and don't forget, you got to, as possible, automate the first 2 stages of, do they have a problem and do they want to solve it? Why they buy? Okay, we talked about that. Just went through that. And who's involved in why they buy? The influencers. You must understand all of these in a B2B situation. Okay, it's imperative that you do that, and how each of these things influence the buying process, where they are, reasons they buy, and don't forget the personal side and who's involved. Why B2B lead generation fails. That's video 2, because people don't understand those things. They don't understand the buying process, why people buy, and who influences it. You must understand that. Thanks again. If you have any questions, please email me at this email address, or you can even call me at my phone number below. And also, please like this video so that other people can see it, and leave your comments below if you would. If there's anything that you've run across that you'd like to share with us, or what you think of the video. Is it helping you or not helping you? Is it good for you? And please pass it on to your colleagues. Until next time, and there'll be more videos coming. Thanks very much.